Hello and welcome to Red Light Exposé's first ever fundraising raffle. We're happy that you can be here today in support of this important podcast project, which helps to counter the growing acceptance of sex work ideology. My name is Andrea Hines. I am one of the 10 co-hosts here at Red Light Exposé. I spent 7 years in prostitution in Canada, exiting in 2013. I am now an activist against all forms of commercial sexual exploitation. A bit of backstory about our group. The idea for Red Light Exposé came about in spring of 2023. There were a few smaller groups of abolitionists considering the idea of forming a sex industry critical podcast. Eventually, we converged and in June 2023 officially formed the group. For the next year or so, we held regular meetings and worked quite tirelessly to create the structure behind this initiative. Once we had everything in place, we launched a GoFundMe page to raise the funds needed for things like a logo, custom music, all the technology needed, and more. In just over a week or so, we were able to fundraise just under $9,000 Canadian, which was pretty remarkable. With the structure completed and the startup funds that we required, we publicly launched in June of 2024. Red Light Exposé is comprised of 7 experiential women and 3 ally experts. We have membership in 7 countries. I will pass it over to my co-host, Ellie Arrow now, who will share more details about the work that we've been doing.
Hello, my name is Ellie Arrow. I'm over here in Germany, and just because I'm going to say a bit about myself and our project, but because there was a question about tickets, some people are wondering how to buy. So when you go on the website, redlightexposé.betterworld.org, you see the list of gifts. You have to click on them, like click on the image, click on the title, and then it leads you to a subpage, and that's where you can buy the ticket. So just to clarify. But all right, back to the project. My name is Ellie. I'm over in Germany, which is famously the brothel of Europe. There's a lot of sexual exploitation here. Even when it's legal, the abuse of women is extremely rife. And that's something that I've felt for years that I need to do something. And that's why I joined this project, to speak up and let people know. And what we've done collectively the past year is publish a total of 24 episodes, which you can find on regular podcast sites, on our website, Red Light Exposé, and we go over a huge range of topics. We talk to experts, survivors and other experts from all around the world about what is really going on, not the pretty woman story, not the myth, the real deal. Present and past. We talk about current events like Andrew Tate. We will be addressing P. Diddy. There's really never a shortage of things to talk about. We will be addressing what's happening in pop culture. We're always saying this episode has like 5 more episodes that can branch off from this. It's really a topic that affects everyone and everything in society. And the next thing we will be doing this summer from July to August is a series called Men for Equality. And that's where men from all across the world doing activism in this space, including men and boys who have been themselves exploited and are survivors, because they're always often forgotten. We will be hearing from them and what they're doing to fight back. And all of this is grassroots work. We don't have big donors. There isn't a lot of money in this space. There isn't a lot of people who want to tell this story. That is more complicated than empowered sex workers and trafficking victims over there. So that's our mission. And I'm going to hand it over to another co-host of ours, Merle.
Hi, my name is Merle. I'm a political scientist, a lecturer, and a survivor from the commercial sexual exploitation industry. I spent 16 years from a child to a grown-up in the sex industry. And I'm a podcaster. I'm a part of the podcasting team. This raffle came about as an idea of Katrina, a friend and supporter of the project. And you will be hearing from her later. And she's also backstage managing all the technical stuff. Tickets are now for sale. They will be purchasable. Do I say that correctly? Until June the 27th. If you really want an item, if you really want it bad, you can buy multiple tickets. There is also just a donate option if you go and find the website. And all the money goes to our overhead costs. We are a completely volunteer-run project, something that we're very proud of. But we still need funding to keep us moving and keep editing and all of that. Winners will be announced on June the 28th, and we will email you as well as we will announce it with your first name and your country on social media. I'm in Sweden, by the way, if I didn't say that. The inventor of the ideology, abolitionistic. How do you say that?
Abolitionist.
Yeah, thank you. But still, there is a lot of things to be done, even here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm leaving. Andrea, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. So how we will spend your money. Everyone always wants to know where that goes. So obviously it's all operating costs. This is a lot of editing, a lot of sound mixing, some digital design work, honorariums that we provide to survivors, which are always $200 Canadian to make sure that we honor their time and their expertise, technology upgrades. So little things like pop filters, new microphones, headphones, whatever we need to make it happen. Obviously, subscriptions to Zencaster, our recording software, advertising costs. And it's like what Marilee said, we always need more money. It's not cheap to run a podcast. That's what we've learned. So we would really love it if you could retweet our live stream post, and also please share our YouTube video if you are on there. You guys can write questions or any comments that you wish within the comments section. And if we have time, we can highlight some on screen throughout this event and answer them if they're not too broad in scope. So to get us started, we're going to start off on a good note with some really lovely friends and supporters that we've had through our group for quite some time, which is an alternative rock punk band called Femigades, which you've probably seen if you're on Twitter, and you've probably heard some of their wonderful music. So we will go to Femigades, and they will open us up with their first song.
Okay, thank you. Happy to be here. Yeah.
Come on, make hay while the sun shines, leave it will. For a second I'll concede that Daddy says it's the career for me. He says the scenes, they will be high. You've gotta use the gift you've got. The oldest profession, now a noble trade, 'cause casual sex is all the rage. And this has only just begun for me. I thank you, and that's all I can say. I could see us all going down my way. To think I knew, approved, almost threw it all away. It's just a tease and all in a daze, and now I'm getting paid and they come for days. Fame, glamour, the lifestyle, survival. Daddy said you've got to make them believe, give them value for their money. At 15, working part-time, allow good men to escape their wives. An ATM of men for me. It's such great industry, and this has only just begun for me. I thank you, and that's all I can say. And I can see us all going down my way. To think I knew, approved, who almost threw it all away. It's just a tease and all in a daze, and now I'm getting paid and they come for days. Now I'm getting paid and they come for days. Now I'm getting paid. Close your
Finger snap. That was amazing. Fantastic.
Thank you.
And I don't think you told us the name of the song before you sang it. That was Daddy's Girl?
Daddy says.
Daddy Says. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, no worries. We're very excited to be here and very excited to hear more about the initiative and be a part about a part of all of this.
Awesome. That was really
Yeah.
beautiful. For somebody who can't play an instrument and sounds like a voice with, nails on the chalkboard, I always love to hear other people perform. It's really lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, you're here on the live stream for the Red Light Expose fundraising raffle. And we're just with Femigades, we're just getting started. And maybe we can have you take us into one more song. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So this next one is Porn Sick.
Dead eyes, degraded and in pain, and all the while the woke look the other way. Pass it on, but change the name you've given it. Loving all the ways she was wronged by him. Kickbacks and free meals, porn sick and lack of sun, trafficked and tortured. Look back on what we've done. Kickbacks and free meals, porn sick and lack of sun, trafficked and tortured. Look back on what we've done. There's no path beyond, no road to safety you can take. And if I try to run, you'll send me a copy that you've made. Did you think I'm wrong? Coercion is not my consent, and it's not a way, it's not the way, and it's not okay. No paywalls, these homemade gems are high, verified. She clearly loves the job. It's not to censor your liberties, to not get off on what was done to me. Kickbacks and free meals, porn sick and lack of sun, trafficked and tortured. Look back on what we've done. Kickbacks and free meals, porn sick and lack of sun, trafficked and tortured. Look back on what we've done. There's no path beyond, no road to safety you can take. And if I try to run, you'll send me a copy that you made. Did you think I'm wrong? Coercion is not my consent, and it's not the way, it's not okay, it's not the way.
Two for two. That was fabulous. That's my favorite Femigade song. If you haven't seen the video, viewers, you got to go check out the video because it is equally as powerful and moving. And I really love the part where it's, putting women into this warehouse and churning them out and money is flying out. It's very symbolic, I think, of what we're talking about. So I think I speak for us all when I say we're really grateful that you're in this space, Femigades, and that you're raising that collective consciousness using media and music and, reaching newer generations as well, people that need to hear this message.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're happy again to be part of this space as well. And we're just wishing you luck on the raffle. And I guess we'll catch the rest of this offline. Yeah.
That sounds great. And you generously donated an item to our raffle, which our viewers can purchase tickets for at redlightexpose.betterworld.org.
Yes.
So I don't tell us what you are donating.
So we are donating a hat and a CD.
CDs. Okay.
Yeah, or CDs. Sorry, all three of them. So this hat has the logo that our drummer designed for the cover of our last EP, Sex Robots, and it's pretty cool. And we've got all three EPs over here as well.
That's great. And I saw your post recently that said, if you don't like our LP sex robots, you probably have one in your closet. And I laughed at that. That was fantastic. Very witty.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be friends with you, and we look forward to continuing all the great work that you are doing, and hopefully we can collaborate again in the future.
Likewise. All the best of luck, and thank you all, ladies. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
So viewers, we want to remind you that you can buy multiple tickets. So if there is an item that you really, really want to have, or you know someone that you really want to purchase this item for, there's no limit on how many tickets you can buy. And again, all that money goes towards our volunteer podcast, not in our pockets, but just to help us continue doing all the great work that we're doing. So we did have multiple donors of some really fantastic gifts. And so we're going to head into some of those videos. Oh, there's our friends Jean and Linda with the really nice comment. That's so lovely. We're glad that you can be here. Thank you. We look forward to discussing you guys soon too. That's great. So we'll pass it over to Ellie. We'll get started with some of our donor videos.
Yeah, so just for those who don't know, most of the tickets are just $5, except for the grand prizes and the mystery prize, which are $10. So we try to make it affordable and hope that there's lots of interest. So to take you through what's on offer, one of our first donors is the fantastic Epic project. And this is a project by men, for men, but in the sense of men trying to intervene when others are about to exploit women, which is they've come up with a unique strategy on how to do that. You will hear about that in our Men for Equality series that I mentioned. We'll have a full interview with the founder, Tom Perez, talking all about that strategy. And what they're donating are 2 hoodies with their slogan, "My friends are not for sale." And we're now going to hear from Tom explaining where that slogan comes from and what the project behind that is.
Hi, friends. My name is Tom Perez, and I'm the founder of Epic Project. We're a growing community of men who believe that the best contribution we can make to combating the violence and trauma of sexual exploitation is to show up alongside leaders like those of the Red Light Expose as healed and healthy men. For us here at Epic, this means cultivating healthy masculine spaces where men feel the freedom to express the full range of their humanity. We've also learned that we can't become full, healthy men in the absence of the loving influence of women as leaders, mentors, guides, and friends, because healthy masculinity is impossible without healthy femininity. Throughout our history as an organization, women have been our strongest advocates and some of the greatest resources to help nurture our own flourishing as men. But this isn't just theoretical. We've also come to believe this way after spending more than a decade directly engaging active online sex buyers at the point of sale. We've had tens of thousands of conversations with men looking to purchase sex acts from vulnerable people. And one of the things we've had to come to terms with is a realization that the same culture that made sex buyers also made us as men. What this means is that there's no one better positioned to talk to the men who drive the demand that leads to exploitation than other men who understand how they got there. In 2011, we set out to simply disrupt the sex buyer market, but soon realized that the culture that perpetuates it must also be disrupted. Eventually, it became clear to us that there was an even deeper disruption that needed to happen. Our own identity needed to be disrupted through a deeper examination of how we show up in the world as men. We thought all that we had to do was show up and fight for justice, but we had no idea how transformative this work would be for our own identity as men. This masculine transformation has shaped the work we do. And we continue to disrupt the demand that drives exploitation through our Cyber Patrol initiative. We currently have trained teams of volunteer men in more than 20 cities across North America who are actively engaging online sex buyers nearly every night of the month. We also work to dismantle the culture of exploitation through educational initiatives such as our Masculine Wilderness podcast and many other resources. And we're now working directly to nurture a new generation that rejects the entire system of exploitation. It's a simple peer-to-peer prevention strategy called My Friends Are Not for Sale. This program is focused on equipping students with the tools to resist both grooming and exploitation in the middle and high school cultures. This prevention program is also the inspiration for the Raffle Prize we're proud to contribute to the Red Light Expose. But there's a catch. Our gift to the winner of this prize will get 2 zippered hoodies with our simple, "My friends are not for sale" message, but the winner must agree to get one for themselves and then give a second to a friend. So on behalf of the men of Epic, I just want to say that it's an honor to stand alongside April, Ellie, Marilee, Mia, Michelle, Savannah, Sabrina, Sybil, Victoria, and our beloved mentor, Andrea. We stand with you and we thank you for that privilege.
Thank you, Tom. We're so grateful for your activism in this space and all the good work that you're doing. And I also have an Epic t-shirt, which is quite fabulous, that was gifted to me, as well as one of the "My Friends Are Not For Sale" pins. So if you really like Epic and the work that you do, you can go to their website and get some of their swag as well. They're fantastic people. Next, we're going to hear from Susan Hawthorne at Spinifex Press, which is a really fantastic publishing company that has put out just some incredible books that I'm sure viewers are all familiar with and have read. And here to tell us more about that, we will have Susan.
In 1991, we set up Spinifex Press. Now, we did this because we had noticed that in bookshops, it was actually very difficult to find feminist sections, and instead the sections that had been feminist were being taken over by postmodern and cultural studies. So we felt that there was an important part of the market there that we would be able to publish into. So what we set out to do was to become a feminist publisher, to publish books that were both innovative and controversial with an optimistic edge. And the optimistic edge is an important part of what we do. We don't want to be just crying all the time because things are bad enough as they are. We have, in the innovative end of things, we have a lot of fiction and poetry titles in which writers experiment with form and when they write about subjects that perhaps have not been written about before. For example, Rose Hunter's book, Body Shell Girl, which is a poetic memoir about a couple of years that she spent in prostitution, which is an unusual sort of thing to do in terms of publishing genre. In the controversial area, we have a lot of books that in which writers talk about, say, prostitution and pornography. Violence against women is a very big part of what we publish. So prostitution and pornography, as well as books about sexualization, about rape, about domestic violence, as well as generally misogyny in general. We also have books that deal with the violence of reproductive technology, surrogacy, for example, but also about technology, information technology, and now at the moment what we're struggling against is artificial intelligence and the kind of violence that is inherent in that. We also have books about war, including the difficulty of surviving war, whether that's in Serbia or in Palestine, or Jewish people who survived the Holocaust. We have also an important list of books by and about Indigenous women, such as Judy Atkinson's Trauma Trails and Sherry Smiley's Not Sacred, Not Wars, both of which are very important books about Indigenous feminist philosophy. And we have classics like Diane Bell's Daughters of the Dreaming. Our environmental list includes books on ecology, biodiversity, climate change, farming, a whole range of different subjects that have ecological ramifications. Our writers come from many different countries. In fact, think we now have writers from every single continent except Antarctica, and maybe we need a penguin or two. So we have writers from Africa, including countries like Botswana, Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt. We have writers from Asia, especially we have quite a lot of Indian writers who contribute to our list, and others. We have European writers from the UK, USA, and New Zealand, and it's very hard to publish New Zealand writers in Australia. So we also have around about slightly more than 100 translations of our books into about 30 languages. One book of ours has been translated into 16 languages. We're very proud of that. So if you would like to know more about us, then I suggest that what you do is that you subscribe to our newsletter, go to our website at www.spinifexpress.com.au. Don't forget the AU. And check out our YouTube channels, the social media, subscribe to our newsletter, and scroll through our list of books. We'd love to hear from
Yeah, so I have a Spinifex book as well, which is really a classic that I highly recommend, which is Being and Being Bought by Kajsa Eckes Ekman. One of the first I read. One of the reasons I'm here that helped me wake up from the sex work propaganda. But just to be clear, this $50 gift card is for any books. So if you go on the Spinifex website, you have your pick. It doesn't have to be about prostitution. If something else piques your interest, then go for it. So yeah, that was Spinifex Press. I'm going to lead us into the next one. This is in the wellness and self-care area. So not all of this is heavy feminist stuff. We have a mix of things to offer, and it is a long-distance house blessing as well as Reiki that's on offer. And the generous donor is Benedetto, who runs the Grateful Rain shop. And what this gift entails, he's the best to explain it. So let's hear from him. Introduce yourself and tell us where we are.
My name is Benedetto, and we're here at Grateful Rain at my shop.
Okay, what do you do here at Grateful Rain?
We are an aromatherapy, apothecary, and spiritual wellness center.
Okay, and what are you offering for the Red Light Expose raffle?
I am offering a long-distance energy work session and or a home blessing session.
Okay, so how does long-distance energy healing work? I mean, I know that's probably a loaded question, but...
Yeah, well, how I like to think about it is that everything is energy and everything is connected, and there's great power in our intention. So when we really focus on sending somebody like healing or energy work or love, it doesn't matter if they're right in front of us. They can be, you know, countries and time zones away, or even, you know, from another life. But since everything is connected, they're able to receive that if they choose.
Okay, so what's the difference between the home blessing and then the the individual energy work?
Yeah. So the home blessing, we do focus on the physical space of the home or the office, and then like one-on-one energy work just really focuses on the body and the energy within and around our bodies.
Okay, and what can someone expect from either of these sessions? Oh, afterwards, like what are the benefits?
I do get reports of people feeling a lot lighter and reduced stress, and they feel more clear, with whatever they were trying to resolve or work through. A lot of folks just, they feel like they're able to relax a lot easier.
What is your training, or what are your qualifications for doing this work?
Sure. I have my certificate as a Reiki Master Teacher. I was also trained with Munai Kai rites, which is a shamanic lineage. And I've had mentors and practice books. Practice books? What does that mean? Read books. I've been doing this work for, oh gosh, like maybe a decade or so. But even as a little kid, I was very much like an intuitive healer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I read that you had been awarded like Best Reiki Master somewhere. Can you tell me about that? Was that like 2 years in a row or something?
Yeah, when I was living in Port Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how all of that worked, but I did have a nice steady base of clients there, and word got out.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, what do you sell at on the shop side other than the energy work?
So one of my passions is aromatherapy. So we have a lot of essential oils that we can pretty much create any sort of potion with. So we do sprays, perfume, massage oil. We even have mouthwash and deodorant. We have hair oils and serums and all sorts of magic.
And so you have an online shop. Do you only ship within the U.S.?
For now, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So, okay. Well, do you have any other closing words that you'd like to say?
Just want to say thank you so much for having me, and if people have questions or comments or concerns, they're always welcome to reach out and ask.
Okay, and let us know your website.
Sure. You can find us at thegratefulrain.com.
Okay, thank you so much, Penny.
So now it's my turn to begin and talk about or lead us into the next chapter, literally. It's a book, and it's called Reframing Women Printmakers. It dives into the feminist expression of art and the print as a way of doing that. And I think we have a video to go along with this. As it says.
Notice, this video is AI generated as the author was unable to make a video. However, the words are the author's. Hello, my name is P.L. Henderson, and I'm offering a copy of my latest book, Reframing Women Printmakers, to a lucky raffle winner in the UK for this good cause. So here is a brief introduction of the publication, which is out on June 1st and available to all from any good bookshop. Having already considered the historic and global circumstances of women's artistic talents in the areas of textiles and painting in my previous books, my aim was to similarly shine a spotlight on women involved in printmaking. As much of art history is based on male lineages, it's interesting to uncover and share the lives of female skills in this remarkable area. In doing so, the book presents a worthy past and also present for female talents. My own interest in printmaking was sparked many years ago after visiting a local gallery in a small town near to where I lived in the north of England. I unexpectedly came across something very special, an exhibition by the artist Kata Kolovitz. Her work in printmaking is simply breathtaking and caused me to seek out more artists in the medium. After doing some research, I found many other great women were involved in printmaking's fascinating evolution. Not only have women printmakers been integral to the most notable movements of fine arts, creating work on anything from nature to the domestic realm and city life, many have also used their skills in areas such as illustration and poster art. Printmaking was also central to women's activism, playing a pivotal part in promoting ideas for suffrage campaigns, the women's liberation movement, U.S. civil rights, and also riot girl zines. The medium has also played an important in the work of Indigenous women's expression. I wanted to write a book which aimed to consider the social and cultural contexts of women printmakers in various parts of the globe. In addition, I contacted over 20 contemporary printmakers for interviews which were included in the book, allowing for into the practices and inspirations of actual printmakers. Many beautiful color images of artworks also accompany the text. As my research continued, I found the story of female printmakers is not only compelling, it's also an imperative part of reframing women's art history. I really hope the winner of this book, as well as everyone else, finds the book really interesting. Good luck!
Thank you, PL Henderson. We're really grateful for that donation. And reminder, you can buy as many tickets as you want. They're all $5, except for our grand prize items, which are $10 each. If you haven't checked out PL Henderson on Twitter, her page is quite remarkable. It's at Women's Art 1. And yeah, always highlighting some really, really interesting art that you probably wouldn't get a chance to see otherwise. So make sure that you follow her page.
And we can't miss to say that it's a UK item only.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get it everywhere.
Yeah. And it's only been released June 1st, it looks like. So it's pretty hot off the press. Pretty exciting. To our next donor, our next video, we're going to be touching on EFT, which was something I had never actually heard of until this process. So EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique, is an alternative treatment for physical pain and emotional distress. It's often referred to as tapping or psychological acupressure. Speaker, author, and EFT practitioner Lisa Forbes will now tell us more about it.
Hello and welcome to the Red Light Expose Raffle. I'm your host, Sybil Joe, and I'm here today with Lisa Forbes, author, speaker, and founder of the nonprofit organization Operation I Can Take It From Here. Lisa and her colleagues use clinical emotional freedom technique to address trauma with a focus on formerly incarcerated individuals and their families. In partnership with the Peaceful Heart Network, an international NGO that takes trauma healing to war zones all over the world, Lisa is dedicated to bringing the same type of healing to the nearly 80 million Americans with a criminal history, helping them to heal from the underlying trauma that led them out of the workforce and into the criminal justice system. Lisa, I'm so honored and grateful for your time here today and for your generous donation to our fundraiser. Many of our listeners have experienced firsthand the ways that abuse and exploitation ripple through people's lives for generations.
Hi, my name is Lisa Forbes, and I am happy to donate 1 hour of emotional freedom techniques, also called tapping, to the winner of the raffle. In case you haven't heard, emotional freedom techniques is a method for dealing with trauma, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. It's been shown to be effective for a variety of things which you may be dealing with. We are trying to reach 100 million formerly incarcerated people, which we call restored citizens, although you don't have to be a formerly incarcerated person to win this raffle and to do tapping with me. But our message is to let people know that there is a nation of 100 million restored citizens in our nation. 80 to 100 million people in America have some type of criminal conviction. 19 million Americans have a felony. And we know that out of those incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women, at least 60% of them have been shown to have diagnosable PTSD symptoms. Probably 100% of them actually have some symptoms of PTSD. And so we're trying to reach these people, work with them. I'm a formerly incarcerated person myself, and so I know all of the history. My organization is called Operation I Can Take It From Here, and that title is taken from my book, which is called I Can Take It From Here, a memoir of trauma, prison, and self-empowerment. So good luck to the winner of the raffle. I look forward to working with you, and we'll do 1 hour of tapping on any subject that you'd like to work with.
Lisa, thank you so much for donating your time and for all of the work that you do out here in the world. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned the rates of PTSD among these certain populations are much higher and worse severity than a lot of combat veterans. And I know that I've seen those numbers for prostituted women as well. When we're having these conversations about how are we going to get people's lives back on track after it's derailed, we can't leave out that element of trauma healing.
Exactly. Because for most of us, it's the fundamental reason why we got into the system anyway. Certainly weren't born in the state that we're in. Experiences put us there. And for most of us, it was childhood experiences or young adult experiences. And so you can't really deal with putting people's lives together until you heal at that root level. And emotional freedom techniques has been shown to be very effective at doing that.
And it's wonderful having just another person who understands, and it being peer led, it being led by people who have had these experiences as opposed to coming from the top down, people who this has never touched their lives, but they've studied it out of a book and they think they have the right answers. It means so much to me that you are out here connecting people to support each other this way.
Thank you, Sybil Joe. It's my pleasure. Yes, we try to reach people in all of the areas that aren't necessarily in the book.
Lisa Forbes, thank you again for giving us your time here today. There's so much more I want to talk to you about, and I think we're going to schedule a full interview really soon. In the meantime, listeners, I highly recommend you follow Lisa Forbes' work, her book, I Can Take It From Here, and her organization, Operation I Can Take It From Here. I've also found her interviews on YouTube and things like that. She's more than worth typing her name into Google and searching her out that way. EFT is a safe, beginner-friendly tool to use to address stress, trauma, and anxiety. And when practiced by knowledgeable, compassionate survivor leaders like Lisa, the impact of this work can't be overstated.
So thank you so much to Lisa Forbes. We're now going to hear from our supporter, Katrina, who came up with the idea, why stay on podcast sites when we can expand out and get on radio? Tell us about that, Katrina.
Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying the live stream. I kind of wanted to do kind of a stream giveaway while I'm on. I'll be on for about 15 minutes. So anyone who's watching the live event, if you buy your tickets from now, so it's about 10:43 a.m. PST, from now until I leave, which is about 15 minutes, I'm able to see who bought within that time frame, and I'll do buy one, get one free. So anyone who buys tickets right now until about 11 a.m. PST, I'll do buy one, get one free. And you can do as many as you want. So if you buy 5 tickets, I'll do 5 free tickets. So go on the website, redlightexpose.betterworld.org right now, because we only have about 15 minutes. So my name is Katrina. I'm here today because I really see Red Light Expose as a special opportunity in this moment. Right now, we really need unique and innovative solutions to counter all the chaos that's happening in the world. We're seeing global relations and unions fall apart. We're seeing wars break out. And, besides that, we have, the basic dignities of stable food, housing, and healthcare out of reach for so many. Red Light Expose has a unique edge in that it brings women from all over the world, behind a common cause. And we really need that sort of solidarity right now when everything else is falling apart. And while they predominantly advocate for the safety and social security of women, if we really take to heart what they're proposing, we really have a chance to radically alter the fabric of society in ways that benefit everyone. Besides the actual content of the podcast, they do an amazing job at the editing. So, production is always high quality, presentation. And so I really felt like in this moment, in this critical time, I needed to do what I could to help expand and elevate their message. And so I felt like it was natural to try to get them on radio, and they deserve to be on radio. So today I have 2 radio stations with me today, US radio stations that Red Light Expose will have a regular spot on. So so I'm operating the stream, so I'm going to be like being weird right now as I'm going back here. So we have Chase in Portland and Jackie in Boulder. Hey, so good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to give you both, well, first off, I wanted to thank you for giving us the opportunity, Red Light Expose, the opportunity to share your airwaves. I know that Jackie actually has to hop off in about 5 minutes, but I wanted to give you both an opportunity to kind of share with everyone what, your radio station, what are some special things about your station because you do have online options for streamers, and if people really support Red Light Expose, they're going to want to support the radio stations that are supporting them. So Jackie, I'll start with Jackie since she has to leave soon. Jackie, I wanted to know, well, first off, you can tell me about KGNU, but I also wanted to learn a little bit more about the process of deciding to get Red Light Expose on the air, because it sounds like you did a process of playing a few episodes and asking your community what they thought. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Fantastic. So I'm Jackie. I am the news director at KGNU. KGNU is out of Boulder and Denver, Colorado. And essentially, we really focus on our mission of uplifting underrepresented voices, underrepresented stories that you wouldn't usually hear in mainstream media for a variety of reasons. And when Katrina emailed me, because she had previously been a community member in Colorado and is still to a degree, I believe, I thought her pitch was really intriguing from the start, because I think that the topics that Red Light Expose confronts so respectfully and delicately and well are not heard on a lot of public media stations, on a lot of national stations. These stories are very under uplifted and they're relevant to everybody, I believe. And so I had Katrina turn a couple of the episodes into radio formats, Katrina and the entire Red Light Expose team. And I aired a couple of them on KGNU in the morning time. And I wanted to see what people thought. And I consulted with some dedicated volunteers here. We're very volunteer run, to ask them what they thought about the programs. And they all agreed that even the parts that made these stories difficult were the reasons that people need to keep listening. Someone said that they had a driveway moment. Essentially, were listening and sitting in their car in their driveway and could not bring themselves to get out of the car, had to finish it before they moved on to their next thing for the day, because these stories are actively already impacting people. And I think that it's incredibly important for local stations to uplift coverage like this, because they're relevant to everyone, whether it's happened to you or not. There's something people can connect with. And again, whether you've had experience or not, the humanity aspect of these stories is so important. And so I really respect everybody's vulnerability in these stories. I think that these stories make change. They allow people to feel safe to share their own, protected when they venture out into the world. And I know that KGNU really appreciates being able to share it. Anybody can access our airwaves. If you're in Colorado, you can tune into 88.5 in Boulder or 1390 in Denver AM. Or you can just go to kgnu.org, and we have a 24-hour live feed. We have an app as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you have to head out, but thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone's in Colorado, check out their station. And, community radio stations work really hard. They work, I would say a lot harder than our podcasts, because, they basically have to raise funds to stay on the air. So, we want to support radio stations that are working so hard to share their hard-earned audiences with us. So thank you so much, Jackie, and we'll talk next week, okay?
Thank you. Sounds good. Great day, everybody.
Yep. See ya. And I'm so happy to give this space to Chase. He is here in Oregon, and he has a very special station that he manages, as it's fully independent. And so I'll give you a few minutes to share about X-Ray and, just kind of how you intersected with Red Light Expose, why you decided to give us a voice there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, my name's Chase Spross. I'm the station manager for X-Ray FM. Much like KGNU, we're a community-run station. We're probably much smaller. We've got a small signal on 91.1 FM and then another one in 107.1 FM, but we cover kind of essentially the city center of Portland. And yes, we have a web broadcast as well at xray.fm. The weird website URL is .fm. But X-Ray was started in 2014 with a mission to hold a microphone up to the best and most distinctive of Portland. And the real part of our message, or our mission, that I want to talk about today, is part of that is to build a culturally relevant center for ideas, music, and creativity in service of a more open media and a more just community. And I think that part of the more just community and more open media is really where we kind of intersect with this work with Red Light Expose. I've been on the air or working with X-Ray for 10 years. And in that time, I've really come to understand that if we want to really be effective in that part of a more open media and a more just community, we have to serve the more open media part, right? And find and build a place where we're essentially handing over our airwaves at times to people that are not often heard from or often kept out of the media and prevented from sharing their voices, right? So this is really a good opportunity for us to really live in that work on our mission, and we do this often. We also have a community advisory group. We don't take PBS or CPV money. Everything we raise is from our community, and that lets us really be independent. And yes, I rely on our volunteers to make decisions and help us kind of guide and see how we can best do that. But this is a chance for us to really continue or help share a conversation that's being had. But like when I was signing on, we want to hear from people with the lived experience in that conversation, right? It's really important to hear from the people that the issues are affecting or have affected and can help share that experience and help us all learn more. And this is really an opportunity to help us have that openness and really work on the part of the mission that is more open and just. So I want to say thank you for letting me come on and say a few words about that. We are a lot like KGNU, it sounds like. So I'm really happy that more stations are interested in doing this. I also do want to say, thank you for letting us share a bit about our stations. But I know in my 10 years of working in community media, it takes real work to make these programs happen. There's a lot of planning, coordinating, production. This is an international team. Katrina's doing a lot of work to make sure that people are hearing the programs, and that you find your own audience, and we can help with that. But there's often many real hours of labor that go into these programs that are done for free because the producers know it's important. They really want to get the word out. So you kind of just make it happen, and you see how it goes. So while I'm on today, I wanted to take a few moments just to let people know to consider supporting the work of Red Light Expose, just because that really continues to make it happen. I do a lot of the fundraising at X-Ray. I make phone calls, I go on the air, I do all of that. And whenever I'm doing it, I often say, this is a thing that we make for free, we give it away for free, but it's not free to make. So your support helps continue to make great things like this happen. So I wanted to put that in as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chase. I always love hearing from you. You always have something really insightful to say. And yeah, exactly. We're all doing this for free. We're giving this away for free, but it's definitely not free to create, just like he said. So he understands from the radio side of things, and we all understand as activists and content creators. So thank you for saying that. And can you let everyone know your website? I mean, I know it's pretty simple, but
Yeah, X-ray, XRAY, like the machine that looks at your bones, and .fm, like the radio signal FM.
Okay, and then what stations are you operating on in Oregon?
Yeah, in Portland, we're on 91.1 and 107.1 FM. You can get that pretty much in the city center of Portland. And if you're out on the Oregon coast, anywhere between Manzanita and Rockaway Beach, you can get us on 91.1 FM.
Awesome. So before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, well, first off, we'll say Red Light Expose will have their regular show every first Friday on X-Ray at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to get people interested. What's one of your favorite shows on X-Ray that you like to tune? I mean, you kind of manage all of this, but what would you say is something to get people interested in X-Ray, other than Red Light Expose, of course?
Yeah, that's a very political question for you to ask me.
Uh-oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
I think we can answer it. I'm really fond of our morning programming at the moment. It's really led by volunteers that are coming in and putting a lot of work in to help share what's going on civically in town. That's I do the morning program twice a week, but there are great volunteers on Monday and Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. The Commons is one of them, and News with My Fiance is another. And I don't do those programs, and they're volunteer led. They just do a lot of work to bring you news stories that they think are important, or find civics and arts that are happening in Portland. So I think that's a really great way to find out what's happening in town. If you don't live here, you can find out a bit more. I will say very briefly, Portland has kind of got this undeserved reputation, I'd say, over the past few years about what it's like to live here. And one thing that I love about X-Ray is it's an opportunity to learn about Portland from Portlanders. So I think that's great. And then Fridays, 2 to 4 p.m., you can listen to some music. And Ross Beach has a program called Alive with Pleasure, where he shares concert calendars, what's going on in town, so you can find a show to go see over the weekend and have some fun. That's one of the other things I love about X-Ray is we have this dual mission of, our civic duty, but also the act of joy as resistance through music and art. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, everyone. He's also on his honeymoon right now, so let's give him a little. I don't know if you give people a round of applause or whatever during their honeymoon, but whatever you do for people on their honeymoons, yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Chase, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All righty. Well, that was fun to hear from them. So everyone who's still watching, we are still doing the buy one, get one free tickets. If you buy now, we have like 5 minutes left for that. So get on the Red Light Expose .betterworld.org, buy as many tickets as you want. And by tomorrow evening, you'll get an email from the platform saying that you have an additional ticket of whatever you bought. So a couple more minutes, go on the website now. So before I go back, I'm going to announce the next item. The maker was unable or, just too busy to make a video. So I'm going to announce the next item because I actually have it. I'll zoom in on me. So this item, it's a bracelet. And, you really don't have to believe in like the power of crystals or anything, but the maker calls it the nervous system reset bracelet. And, she gives you these little, oops, it's upside down, these little cards. And so it's orange calcite, which she says is for the endocrine system, hormone balance, and removes energetic blocks. Unakite, which is healing, balance, and soothing. And kunzite, which calms nerves and emotional well-being. This combination of stones helps to create peace in mind, body, and spirit. And the special thing about this maker is she is a Reiki master. Again, you don't have to believe in this stuff, but she'll, while she's creating these bracelets, she basically prays over each bead as she beads it and listens to like healing music. And she will make these basically she'll make sure the bracelet fits your wrist. And so this is a 6 millimeter beads, but she also has the option for 8 millimeters. So they'll be a little bit bigger. So this is the nervous system reset bracelet. Go to redlightexpose.betterworld.org. Only $5. Unfortunately, she's only shipping within the US for this prize. But if you really like these and you want one, you can just go to her Etsy shop, which is in the raffle ticket, and you can buy one and just pay for shipping to your country. So that's enough for me. And so I'm going to go backstage. We have 1 more minute until 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So go get your last minute buy one, get one free tickets. And I'm going to go back, and then Merle is going to tell us a little bit about Kaisa. Let me remove myself 1 moment.
Thank you. I'm going to try and talk about Kaisa Allison because she has no video, like Katrina said. Some were too busy, but she's an artist. And yes, there's her website. And you can visit her at kaisaallison.com. She also goes under the name Kaisa Love. And some of you may know her from her very popular Twitter page at Women's Art One. There's a one. No, sorry, I mixed it up. I am really, really sorry. That's not the person. I read completely wrong. Because Allison is a wonderful artist, and her whole idea is to spread love, and her spread love through putting her arts in an envelope and ship it out to you. And I think I'm correct when I'm saying that there can only be 3 winners. She'll only send out 3 images of art. So really exciting artist. Go and buy a ticket. And fingers crossed.
I'll tell you about the next item, which is another book. This one is by Wendy Murphy, and it's called Oh No, He Didn't, which I think is a really catchy title. And it's focused on the long history of men stealing and taking credit for women's ideas, inventions, and discoveries. Now, on our pod, we talk about physical violence, sexual violence, but the emotional violence of destroying women's careers or making sure they never ever take off. This is part of that. This is part of the dehumanization process, and she compiles cases and talks about them and draws connections to the wider oppression of women. And she just has a longstanding, activist projects and work on women's rights, focused on the Equal Rights Amendment, and here she is now herself telling us about that.
Hi, welcome to Red Light Expose. This is your host, Sybil Joe. I'm here today with Wendy J. Murphy, author of No, He Didn't, and she is an attorney specializing in women's rights, civil rights, constitutional rights, and violence against women and children. Co-director of the Women's and Children's Advocacy Project under the Center for Law and Social Responsibility at New England Law, Boston, and a former visiting scholar at Harvard Law. Wendy served as a columnist for the Boston Herald for many years and has appeared frequently on network and cable news shows as a pundit and legal analyst. Her first book, And Justice for Some, is an expose of injustices endured by women and children victims of abuse. Wendy, a former child abuse and sex crimes prosecutor, lectures widely on women's rights, Title IX, constitutional law, and criminal justice policy, and is a national leader in the fight for the Equal Rights Amendment. A mother of 5, a grandmother of 1, and a yoga student for life, Wendy lives outside of Boston. Wendy, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book that came out last year, Oh No, He Didn't? A little bit of the backstory of how that came about.
Sure. So the book is subtitled Brilliant Women and the Men Who Took Credit for Their Work. So it's fairly obvious what the book is about. It came about because I was working on an academic paper about the history of women's struggle for equality in the United States. I happened upon a story online somewhere. I forget who it was about, but it was about a woman whose work was credited to a man. And I thought this could be an interesting footnote, at least, a kind of real world example of what happens when women don't have legal equality. It's easier for men to steal their work. So I thought I'll go get a book on the topic and see what the author has to say about this phenomenon of men taking credit for women's work and see if the author came to any conclusions about why it happens. And when I went to find that book, there wasn't one. I was stunned because I thought, this is a fairly common experience, and it has occurred throughout history, across continents and generations and disciplines. How can there not be a book that collects the stories of women whose work was credited to men? I just couldn't believe it. I said, I've got to write this book. I just felt it was my obligation as a woman. It took me very little time to put it together because I was so inspired and motivated and angry about the fact that there was no such book. I think I put my book proposal together in about a week, and I thought, oh, this is never going to get published, but I'll send it out. And very quickly, I got a response from a publisher who was enthusiastic about publishing it. So it was meant to be because it happened so quickly. It happened smoothly. I felt like the stars aligned for a reason. And I worked on both the book and my academic paper simultaneously, which was kind of funny and a bit challenging because they require different types of brain energy. Obviously, as for a lay audience, the other is a little bit more heavy duty law stuff. But in a way, they both helped inform the other. In my academic paper, which has like 400 footnotes, and the subtitle of which is called Constitutional Terrorism, which is a phrase I coined to describe the nature of women's existence when they live under a regime of inequality. I kind of incorporated that theme into my book, not in terms of the storytelling. The book actually includes more than 20 stories of different women whose work was credited to a man, and each chapter is dedicated to a single woman. But I wanted to include in my book an explanation about why this happens. Maybe not every one of these stories happened because women lack legal equality, but make no mistake, the primary driving force behind women's suffering in all contexts, including when men take credit for their work with impunity. So they don't just take credit, they get away with it. Why does that happen? The primary driving force is women not having basic legal equality. Because if you don't have full legal equality, then your rights as a human being are subject to unequal enforcement, unequal treatment, because you are a woman. And that gap between equality and inequality is where all that harm happens with impunity, whether it's disproportionately high rates of abuse and rape and unequal pay. Men have a kind of entitlement to take credit for women's work, because if a woman were to challenge that theft of her property, the court could rule against the woman based simply on the fact that she's not entitled to full legal equality. The man has priority. Over time, what that manifests into in terms of theft of property is men steal because they can. That's really, the simplest way I can put it. If I ask the question, when I give book talks, I ask the question, why do men take credit for women's work? The simple answer is because they can. And that's what my book is about.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Wendy. I just really love the way that you are taking things that I kind of know on a grassroots level from my own lived experience about the way that the law doesn't work, but you're translating it into this way that I think a wider population can hear. And you said something to me earlier about telling people things they can't unknow.
Yeah, one of the most important things I feel about my book is plagiaristic injustice, the theft of their inventions and ideas and discoveries, the relationship between law, legal systems, hierarchical approaches to rights. That is the ultimate enabler. But because women are socialized to accept unfair treatment, and they're not educated to even understand that they are unequal, because there's a vacuum in education. People don't connect the dots between being unequal and suffering injustice. So my book works really hard to put those dots together. I can't even express with enough emotion how joyous the moment is for me when someone connects the dots themselves and the light goes on and they say, wow, this is incredibly important to me. I never understood this before. I just learned something that's going to change my life. That light bulb going on, that consciousness raising, that little bit that comes from my book means the world to me. And it really is the primary reason I wrote the book, to not just tell these women's stories, but to help understand why they suffered the way they did. Because when you realize that being unequal is the driving force behind your suffering, you can never unknow that. And then you start to see things through that lens. So instead of just saying, boy, that police officer didn't treat me fairly. Oh my gosh, that judge took my children away and I didn't even do anything wrong. Instead of feeling like you're crazy, once you do understand the causal relationship between inequality and that type of suffering, you can never unknow it. It is in some ways a gift, I think, to have that degree of knowledge, even though it's painful and you can't just fix it. You have to sort of accept your status, and then your energy can be directed toward fixing the primary problem instead of wasting your energy on things like fixing laws. That new law is likely to make no difference whatsoever because it's going to be served up on a broken plate. The Constitution is broken because it permits the unequal enforcement of laws on behalf of women. That's where the cracks in the plate come from. You have to fix the plate first and then go to the legislature. Otherwise, that law is just going to fall through the cracks. This focus on fixing the plate first, equality first, everything else will follow, is a theme we really haven't seen in the women's movement for more than 50 years. And it's time we got back to it because women are suffering enormously. The United States is among the top 10 most dangerous countries on earth for women. It's second most dangerous for sexual violence. We have some freedoms that women in other nations don't have, but we're also dying at very high rates. About 6 women a day are killed by men in this country. Women aren't even protected under most states' hate crime laws. If I beat you up because you're Irish or gay or Jewish or Black, that's a hate crime. But if I do exactly the same thing to you because you're female, it isn't. Now, what's the message women get from that? What's the message people get from that? Women aren't as important. Women aren't as valuable. That's the state of the law in the United States of America. Most women are unaware of it. And I wrote my book to not only tell the stories of amazing women, but packaging them together so that we can see the sameness of their life experiences because they are all female. Understanding that we're talking about women whose stories date back to the 1600s all the way to the present. They cross disciplines from scientists to writers, architects, and inventors. I mean, all the different disciplines are represented. Women from all walks of life have very little in common, except they are female and they suffered the plagiaristic injustice of having their work stolen from them and credited to a man. That bonding, that sameness of their life experiences, such an important story unto itself. That's why I wrote the book, Women Need to Know.
Thank you so much for the work that you do and for your support of Red Light Expose. We certainly here are trying to shine a light on all of these different mechanisms that pressurize women into exploitation and violence. I hope that we get to do a full episode soon. And anybody who's listening, definitely check out Wendy Murphy's book, Oh No, He Didn't, her first book, And Justice for Some, if you want to go a little deeper into the ways that women are systematically discriminated against and pushed into roles of subjugation.
Thank you very much. And my TED Talk, I think, is also helpful. I just encourage people to do what they can to elevate the conversation. When you see the experience of a woman suffering inequality at the hands of the government, and I mean all government officials, legislative, executive, judicial, federal, and state, they all have the power and the right to treat women differently and worse because they're female. When you see that, remember that the solution is to fix the Constitution to establish women as fully equal persons once and for all. And you can play a role in getting the word out. We have 170 million votes, women do, in the United States. Imagine the power we would have if we figured out how to unite and use those votes for good. Thank you so much for your have 107. Thank you.
Oh, not sure what happened. We lost the end of the video, but thank you so much to Wendy Murphy. She's quite a brilliant woman. Like, I never get tired of just sitting and listening to her talk. And I really appreciate what she said, constitutional terrorism. I've never heard that term, but I think that really makes so much sense, especially also in the prostitution system and when we see governments legitimize the harm that women experience through those systems. We're going to move on to Nicole Nicoletta, which I think is such a cool name, who is the executive director of the Rocky Mountain Film Festival in Colorado. So she's going to join us and tell us a little bit more about their work and what they are donating.
Now is Nicole Nicoletta to tell us about the Rocky Mountain Women's Film Festival, who are donating to our raffle this year. So Nicole, what's the story behind the festival? How did it come about?
Sure. So thanks for having me, Nicole Nicoletta, Executive Director for Rocky Mountain Women's Film. We are the longest running women's film festival in North America. This is our 38th year, and it came about as an idea from 2 awesome women who were coming home from a film festival in Southern Colorado, and they were coming to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and said, you know, we need a space, a platform for women's voices behind the lens. So they started in 1987. Started with just a few films for, I think it was maybe a course of a couple of hours in one day, and we're up to 3 days now about 45 films over the course of the weekend. Yeah, so the idea is to build community around film, and we do that by elevating the voices of women and the voices of those often unheard and unseen.
And what specifically is happening this year? So anyone who wins this raffle, what can they look forward to? What's special? Is there a theme? Is there specific artists? What's happening?
First, the person who wins this raffle, congratulations. They're going to be very, very excited. This raffle in particular is for the virtual encore. So the virtual encore for the festival happens the week after the in-person festival. Our in-person festival is October 17th through the 19th at Colorado College. And then the next week is the virtual. Typically, there is a theme that emerges for the festival, but we are actually still in the process of selecting films. We're still previewing hundreds of films and selecting the final schedule. So I can't speak to a theme right now, but what I can say is we're predominantly documentary films, no doubt about it, inspiring, thought-provoking, entertaining. We believe that there's a unique ability for female filmmakers behind a lens to tell a story. Perhaps it's a story about, like we had one last year called 399, The Queen of the Tetons, about the grizzly bear in the Tetons, right? Anyone could be behind the lens telling that story, but there is a very unique ability for a woman to be able to tell that story. And that's what we like to highlight. And so the folks who win the raffle, they'll have an opportunity over a course of 4 days to screen not all of the films that are at the festival, but, easily 20 films when we have 44-ish approximately at the festival. So plenty of films, 4 days to get those in and watch from the comfort of their home.
And in case anyone listening is interested in submitting, because we have some artistic-minded women, some women in the arts connected to this project, you take films from all around the world, is that correct? So really international.
Yes, we take films from all around the world. Unfortunately, the window has closed to submit films for this year. Right now, we're just soliciting films, but whoever's watching or involved in this awesome project, folks can plan to submit films next year if they're interested.
Okay, great. Anyone who can make it, where is it happening this year?
Sure. Colorado College in Colorado Springs, Colorado, October 17th through the 19th. We have so many wonderful elements to the festival. So obviously films all weekend long, but on Saturday and Sunday we have the Filmmaker Forum, and it's a moderated panel, filmmakers who are present. We pay to have filmmakers come out. We take very good care of our filmmakers. We pay for the filmmakers to come out and they'll be on a panel, and you can have your lunch and listen to them answer, very important questions about the industry, about their story, about the story that they filmed. And then there's a Q&A. So that's on Saturday and Sunday. We have live music every night, food trucks, cocktails. It's just it's a phenomenal weekend to get together.
To viewers who are interested in finding out more, please visit rmwfilm.org. You can buy tickets or maybe next year submit your own film. And if you happen to have the ability to sponsor women's projects, you can look into sponsoring as well. And also I saw there's a library of previously screened films and plus information where to watch them. And I saw one of my favorite women-centered documentaries, which is #Female Pleasure, which I saw when it first came out, where it screened in Germany. And then I got to hear the director talk as well. But also many films I didn't know, which is obviously the purpose of a library, to find those hidden gems. Other places people should go? Are you very active on Instagram or somewhere else?
Yep, Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, if you go to our website, our film library shows you all the films we've had over the past many, many years and where you can stream them. But I'm glad you brought that point up, Ellie, about being able to hear from the filmmaker of one of your favorite films. I think that's just, with the work that you do and the work that we do, hearing from the women who are experiencing life, experiencing challenges and resilience and adversity, and it's so powerful and inspiring to be able to connect with them face to face. It's awesome.
Because as you know, so many of these topics are so heavy and painful, but then to actually have community, to know that you're not alone and you're not crazy, and this is not in an inevitable way that our society has to function. That's the whole ethos of our podcast, that there is a vision for something different, that inequality is not destiny. It's one of many paths society can take.
Well said.
I look forward to seeing where this raffle goes and the many people it brings together, and hoping it'll bring more guests and interested. All right, so that was the message from the Rocky Mountain Film Festival. It looked a lot of fun on the website. I wish I had more money to travel. Again, like the biggest women's only film festival in North America, really worth visiting. Just to remind the audience, you can ask questions if you're on any platform that has a live chat. You can drop one in. You know, when there's time, we'll answer them. Nothing complicated. We can't launch into a whole essay, but happy to answer smaller questions. Next up, we have our donor Medusa Rising, another brilliant name, in my opinion, for a women's rights organization. For those who don't know, the myth of Medusa is that there's a whole some myths about her where she survives rape at the hands of Poseidon, and then I think she's blamed for her own rape. But she we hear about Medusa from the scary woman with the snakes on her head, but there's a lot more there. And the women of Medusa Rising, the founder Esme Streichhold and the women who've joined hands, they're building something new, another hopefully foundational a networking project, media project for women by women. And here's Esme now to tell us more.
Red Light Expose supporters, thank you for showing up here for Red Light Expose and the absolutely vital work that they are doing for women who are surviving sexual exploitation. I'm Esme Streichhold. I am the founder and editor of Medusa Rising, and our contribution to the raffle is a free year of all access membership to our newsletter, pod, video, publishing, movement building project. Our memberships are all named for snake goddesses because I am a nerd, and the Pythia rate gets you everything, including special event access. It's worth $130 for the entire year. So please come join us and hang out for that whole year and get everything you can out of being part of this global and growing crew. We're going to have our very first event in July. We're going to hang out and give each other some time to talk, meet the other members of this community, and focus our energies on building a playlist for Medusa Rising and the Gorgon Posse so that we can jam together as we move into this future. Currently, the other Gorgons are the online activist Zara Kashpa, the environmentalist and writer Aja Lyons, Erin, who lives in Dublin and connects us to the far eastern parts of the globe, and Victoria Guggenheim, who you know because she is a co-host here at Red Light Expose. Our goal is to be able to pay women for the contributions that they make, for the work that they share with us. We do currently pay, but we'd like to be able to keep doing that, so that's what membership supports when you come join us. If you want to share your brilliance with us, come on, if that's your thing. Our inbox is open all year long. We read constantly. I am especially proud for Red Light Expose that they exist and that you all are here to help support them, because they are continuing a long feminist lineage of directly confronting the scourge of sexualized male violence and violentized male sexuality. I'm really, really honored to have a chance to support this work. We recently lost the second wave radical feminist Susan Brown Miller, who wrote the groundbreaking study Against Our Will, a study of what we now call rape culture back in the 70s and 80s. We're losing these elders. They are becoming elder spirits now. So I'm deeply grateful that Red Light Expose is here as part of this resurgent feminism that is drawing on these second wave lineages and moving forward into a future nobody's ever written before. Nobody's ever seen it. It's because these women in the second wave, they dreamt that future to be established in a return, right? In a return to respect for women's being and becoming, where women are not expected to absorb men's violence or support their egoic or public projects. We have to envision that world to create it, and we have to create that world as we envision it on the fly. That's why we need culture. That's why we need thought. That's why we need reporting. That's why we need essays and fiction and all of our insights to build that culture. Feminism for a very long time has been a critical analysis. That's how it was created. And we did it. We did the critical analysis, and it is time to move into the next arm of the spiral, as Mary Daly would say, and to create that other world, that outer world that she would have us leaping to, right? What she sort of jokingly but very seriously called the fifth spiral galaxy. Unfortunately, we're starting here, where patriarchal systems are doubling down on their deadly indifference and their violent actions. So Medusa Rising wants to remind everyone that patriarchy has only existed for 5,000 years. It is a tiny interruption in a much older, more stable way of life that did not collapse every few thousand years from the emptiness of its ambition and the thinness of its imagination. We mean for this millennium to be its last. We did not always do civilization this way. And at Medusa Rising, we want to test and live and play and argue and share and build and see each other across all of our differences into a more robust, thriving future for humans and our cousins among the flora and the fauna and the fungi of Gaia's great and magnificent Earth. So we're really glad you're joining us for this project. Come and see us over at medusarising.org as your little chit for the raffle says. And thank you so much for showing up for Red Light Expose.
Thanks so much, Esme. She has been such a longtime supporter of our podcast project. Like, I think every tweet that we put out, she engages with it, retweets it. She's really helping us to spread the word. So we're really grateful for her and for the work that she and her colleagues are doing over at Medusa Rising. As she mentioned, Victoria Guggenheim is one of our co-hosts, but unfortunately she was feeling under the weather. She was originally going to be here with us today and wasn't able to make it. So I'm going to mention what she plans to contribute to this raffle project. And that is a personal artistic makeup session over Zoom. So if you're not familiar with Victoria and her work, she is a world acclaimed and awarded makeup artist who has done some pretty impressive art and is, I think has worked on Marvel films. Is that what it was? Yeah, Marvel films. So really, really speaks to how skilled she is at what she does. So she is offering this artistic makeup Zoom session over Zoom, sorry. So really interesting if you're a performer of some kind or you just want makeup tips or to learn how to do that. That would be a really good thing to bid on. And I'm sure Victoria would enjoy the time spent with you. You can also check out Victoria at Quirkathon on Twitter.
And now I have an app that I want to talk about. It's called Libby. And the Libby app is an AI mental health app companion with meditations and exercises and journaling. So if you're interested in that, you should buy a ticket for that.
What problem is Libby Health solving?
Libby Health is tackling the mental health crisis, and we are committed.
What problem is Libby Health solving?
Libby Health is tackling the mental health crisis, and we are committed to creating inclusive solutions. Our goal is to ensure that underserved communities can access tools that center their well-being and their liberation. We're doing this with Libby, an AI companion that empowers users to navigate anxiety, depression, and stress. Libby Health is filling a critical gap in the mental health landscape. We're making mental health care more accessible, more affordable, and more culturally relevant.
And it's a 1-year subscription that you are bidding on or buying a ticket for.
That's great. I want to circle back around to Victoria, who I was just speaking about. She recently had the pleasure of speaking with Mary Byler, who is someone that we plan to get on our podcast, in addition to multiple guests that we've already spoken about here, for a full interview, because she's just really quite brilliant. She's an author and a survivor. And here is a sneak peek of the book that she is generously donating, called Jezebel's Justice, Poetry and Prayers for Rebellious and Disobedient Folks.
So I'm very excited to have the wonderful Mary Byler with me, talking about what she's going to give us for the Red Light Expose raffle. I'm just going to go through her bio now. So Mary Byler was born and raised in 5 different Amish settlements. They pursue writing and other experiences that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to explore within their Amish homes. Byler holds a master's certificate in life coaching and multiple certifications in trauma awareness. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, hi. I'm so grateful that I get to do this today. This is one of those experiences that I wouldn't have necessarily had the opportunity to explore within the Amish homes I was raised in.
Oh, that's fabulous. So tell us a little bit more about what you're donating to the raffle, because we're really excited.
I have written many, many, many things. I've actually published 2 books. They're self-published books for various reasons, partially because I speak English as a second language, which many people do not realize about Amish people, is that most Amish speak English as a second language. The ones that I'm familiar with, where I grew up, we all spoke English as a second language. There's actually types of Amish, which is an interesting fact, where we can't really speak our first language to each other, and we might have to revert to some English to be able to have a conversation, because they speak a different dialect. And even amongst the different settlements that I lived in, they spoke different dialects.
That just blows my mind. So even when you're attempting to speak in your mother tongue, it's different. Like, that must have been just so crazy growing up and not being able to, like, you're like, but this is my, like, my mother tongue, this is my language, but I can't speak to you in it. How did it feel for you kind of growing up like that?
Well, I was also born with a congenital defect, and so, like, I didn't speak until later. Like, I can remember not being able to speak, but when they finally corrected that, I was able to speak, but I couldn't speak to people who were not from the church because they didn't necessarily speak my language in the first place. There was definitely a difference. In my first book, which I'm not donating, but it's called Reflections and Memories of an Amish Misfit, I wrote about how I would go play with this dominant culture girl across the road when I was very little, and we couldn't communicate with each other because I didn't speak English. But we still found ways to connect. And what's really beautiful about that is once I started speaking openly about my experiences and I talked about some of those things, that girl, now an adult, reached out and found me, and we had several conversations.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really beautiful.
So in my first book, I talk about the environments that I was raised in. And one of the things that's widely misunderstood about Amish people in general is, like, first, there's a language barrier. Second, there's also a different culture. We didn't grow up in dominant culture America. That's very apparent when we try to build connections with people. Often, like, people respond in ways that maybe they think are being helpful or trying to connect with us, but it's really not helpful. And it actually turns many people away. If there's one thing you take away about Amish people, remember that Amish people are diverse. We have decentralized leadership. When you think about a group of people that has, like, one single leader, we don't have that. We have decentralized leadership, which results in many varied rules across many different types of Amish. Some of the settlements I lived in, we could have tractors, and other settlements we could not. So in my first book, I wrote about the crimes that I had experienced, because in 2004 I escaped. And when I escaped, I reported the abuse that I had experienced as a child. And there were 5 people in my immediate family arrested and prosecuted for crimes they committed against children. And a lot of it had to do with child sexual abuse. Furthermore, they all pled guilty. When I wrote about that, I wrote about that from the aspect of, like, this is trauma, this is true crime. It is a heavy read. It is very short. I did share some of my art. I like to say I'm a creator. I create things. I make things. I find so much joy in making things. And I shared some of that at the end of it. But the other thing that I've done, my whole life is I've been writing poetry my whole life. And I never, ever thought I would share poetry with the world. But I did. And
Oh,
it's this
wow.
book called Jezebel's Justice. And to me, it's like this sort of like trauma humor. And I write about this in the book. There's actually a piece entitled Jezebel's Justice in the book. And I ended the book on Jezebel's hands, considering what I was taught about Jezebel, how the grooming was just there. In the environment I was raised in, there was so much grooming of children and normalizing of how people sexualize children. And so part of what we need to do collectively, we need to address the grooming of children. We need to stop calling purity culture. We need to call it the grooming of children. That is what purity culture is, because it sexualizes children, minor children. And when we do that, we're going to create generational differences that will make it to where future generations of children will not face some of the things that some of us faced. So I wrote about the trauma, and then I wrote about the poetry. And I wrote from a lens of like, this is like all that I am. And it's more indicative of who I am today. The first book is what I experienced as a child and a young adult until I was 19. The second book is more or less like just who I am today, all the things that I've seen in life, and how I deal with some of those things.
In terms of why you wanted to donate this book, what was your reason for wanting to donate this book to the raffle?
Because I wrote things like this piece called Trauma Recovery. And it starts off with trauma recovery is messy and weird and beautiful chaos. It's 3 a.m. conversations on the Riverwalk in San Antonio while savoring the last sip of a margarita in your styrofoam cup. It's going to Denny's for breakfast at 4 a.m. with your friends and then crashing at a hotel. It's going to Vegas and catching a show together. It's dancing in the rain in the club. It's sitting in a hole in the wall coffee shop with a friend and bonding over a cup of joe. It's finding delight in riding the train together to experience the incredible sight of nature. It's standing together against injustice. It's spending time with people who have mutually shared experiences. It's crying together over the sorrows of life and celebrating each other's successes. Trauma recovery means acknowledging the way many trauma survivors may feel like misfits, forever altered after surviving trauma. It's creating connection, shared experiences, space where people can be authentic, and learning that good stuff isn't always a weapon. It's building a community that connects you without compromising your values. It's worth it. And you are worth it.
I think that's such a beautiful gift that you've given to us today. And I think that the person who gets this is going to be an extraordinarily lucky lady. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I think one of the biggest strengths that we can have as trauma survivors in the first place is understanding that we were victims of crimes, but we don't have to live in victimhood, and we get to choose what we do with our life, and we get to choose how we go about our life, and we are enough. We deserve to have access to resources and to have meaningful lives despite that which was done to us against our wills. We are allowed to laugh again, and we are allowed to find joy in life again.
That's really, really beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. I think this is also what, Red Light Expose is doing as well. It's the fact that, we're shining a light on what happens in these industries, but we also want to make sure that, there's joy and there's healing afterwards. So thank you so much for being here with us today and donating this wonderful book. And I think whoever gets it is going to have an absolutely wonderful gift. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
I really hope they at least know that even despite feeling alone, you're not.
So that was Mary. We thank her for that donation. That's a really meaningful one. And we look forward to having her on the podcast and hearing the full story, the healing journey, what she is doing now, turning pain into art. There's lots to cover there. Another place where you can hear Mary next year is the Women Create Festival, the Women Create event. So this is an event by one of our co-hosts, founded by Victoria Guggenheim. You can read about it online, follow them on social media to see what's happening next year at womencreateinternational.com. And it's an event all for seeing the works off and networking with other creative women, artists of all kinds from all across the world who have been silenced, canceled because they're inconvenient in many different ways, because at risk as well, women who are politically persecuted, which is a huge problem all around the world. So it's a space to bring all of those things together. Onto our next donor, we have another book, which was written by Andrea on here, and her co-author, Kathy King, who is a veteran activist in the space of commercial sexual exploitation and the intersecting issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. So to tell us about her work and the book, here is Kathy. Kathy King is a decades-long advocate for justice for and prevention of further cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. In 1997, Kathy started Cara with one such young woman whose life was taken by a violent man in the context of commercial sexual exploitation. Despite thousands of lives taken and vanished from Canada's Indigenous population and extremely high rates of interpersonal and sexual violence against women and girls, the issue has taken a long time to reach the ears and eyes of the public. And from everything I hear, connecting it to commercial sexual exploitation, that's taking even longer. And so to give other advocates and possible newcomers to the cause a solid knowledge base, Kathy and our co-host Andrea Hines wrote a book titled When Men Buy Sex, Who Really Pays, which I think is a brilliant title. Kathy, you're here to tell us about the book because it's one of the items that people can buy a raffle ticket for. Thank you so much for being here, and tell us a bit about the process. What sparked the idea for the book? What was the process writing it?
It's been 28 years already since my daughter disappeared. But even before she disappeared, she was a young woman with many challenges who was struggling. She was struggling with addiction. She was struggling with intermittent psychosis, which apparently is sometimes a side effect of drug use. She was what they would call neurodivergent. She was probably mildly developmentally delayed. She had an impulsive, outgoing personality. She didn't understand dangers. So she was leading a very dangerous life even before she disappeared because of things that she couldn't control and because of things that I couldn't control. I was an individual advocate like 30 years ago, trying to find resources for her and trying to help her navigate this maze of systems that just seemed to create more obstacles than help. And one day she disappeared from the streets of Edmonton in 1997, and she was missing a month before her body was found. Since then, there's been thousands of women disappear across Canada. It was just a terrible, terrible social situation that was being ignored on so many levels. And women were being blamed for their own exploitation. In the media, like even when bodies were found, there was stigmatizing, horrible headlines. There was never, ever any attention paid to how this happened, why it happened, the fact that there was consumers. And if it wasn't for consumers, this exploitation wouldn't have been happening. So I started probably even before she disappeared, trying to kind of understand the bigger picture. And then after her body was found, well, I kind of went through probably 6 months of numbness. And then I just thought somebody has to start saying something. So I like to think that I've helped open the door for a number of people, because over the last 25 years, of course, there's been many, many voices. There's still many coming forward, you know, the whole Sisters in Spirit, Stolen Sisters, Stolen Brothers, the inquiry, which finally happened. I like to think I helped open the door. And of course, I want people's own voices to be heard. So Fast Track, I think it was about 12 years ago that I met Andrea. So we met at a John school and we collaborated on a number of projects. You know, we sort of realized we were both coming from the same perspective. Early 2020, 5 years ago already, Andrea phoned me one day and she said, Canada needs a really good book. Are you in? And it was COVID. I said, sure. We started writing seriously early spring 2020. We started creating a framework. And then I said, what are all the perspectives we want to ensure are covered? We developed basically a 16-chapter framework started filling in the framework ourselves, consulted with probably hundreds of people, did a lot of research. We're on the phone probably every other day for 2 years, just saying, have you read this article? Have you read that article? Did you see this? What do you think about what so-and-so said? How do we combine all these things? As we gathered more material and as we spoke with more people, we had a number of survivor stories. So we spent some time interviewing those ladies, editing their stories. Initially, we were going to intersperse the other stories, but in the end, it just seemed like we needed to create separate categories. So we have our 16 chapters of our own research. We have the survivor voices, and then we have other people who are working in the field. So that process took, I would say, over 2 years, almost daily work. It was like having a part-time job. We were both doing all sorts of other things at the same time. Anyway, we finally got our format, and then we went into the process of proofreading, and we'd get a printable proof, and we'd painstakingly go through it, and then we think we're ready to hit print, and then no, I found like 8 more errors. That probably took another 6 months. Long story short, we finally published in January of 2024. We're grateful to people who contributed to the costs. We're grateful to everyone who contributed time, expertise. It was a long, long collaborative effort. Anyway, we're very pleased. We want to focus attention on the book because we believe it is a very balanced approach. We believe it, of course, it is a pro-abolition approach. It presents perspectives that aren't necessarily understood or shared in society. So we believe it is a valuable resource. We're hoping it will be picked up across Canada by law enforcement, by social workers, by politicians, just anyone who really wants to fully understand the complexity of the issue, because this sexist work mythology is so prevalent and workers' rights is such a distraction. We've discussed those perspectives. We've looked at the historical shifts over the years. Primarily focuses on Canada, although we've certainly shared some of the initiatives that have happened around the world. We hope that it will be a resource that endures over time and that 10 years from now it will still be quoted as a resource, that people will be able to say, well, did you read the Hines and King book from 2024? Anyway, that's our story to date.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that and thank you for writing it. I'm always amazed that there's such a gap in the literature. It's such a huge issue. There's very few lives, especially with modern pornography, that this issue doesn't touch. And
Yeah.
still, it's like on underfunded volunteers to do all this advocacy and to start the literature. I see that in the research as well. Even the scientific field is putting out very little on this. So I can imagine, yeah, you had to do a lot of the firsthand research going to the people because even the governments and the scientists, they don't have the neat numbers. And same with the missing and murdered women, right? We are just starting to count the lives harmed and destroyed by this, but all the more important that it's being done. So
well, I was just going to say the turning point for me was reading Rachel Moran's book, Paid For. That was a turning point for me. And everybody that I've talked to said that that is a paradigm shifting book. So I just want to say thank you to Rachel Moran for starting the ball rolling. And there was an organization in Edmonton that brought her to Edmonton to speak, and they gave away 40 books. And like so many people, I took the book home. It sat on my shelf probably for 6 months before I got around to reading it. Then I finally read it, and then it's like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. As a follow-up, I personally purchased, not all at once because I couldn't afford it, but over the period of the next year, I'd purchase like 10 books at a time and distribute them to people that I thought should read it. City council, various community leaders. I carried around a few copies of Rachel's book for years. And every time I would have an occasion to speak to someone, I'd say, have you seen this book? I hope that our book will have the same kind of influence, that people who've purchased this may not have read it right away, but that's okay. I hope they will eventually. I just think it's so important that people know there are resources, that people find the resources, that people continue the conversation moving ahead. So it was an act of love on our behalf. Promotion continues to be an act of love. I'm obviously a little bit older than Andrea, so I know that I'm passing the torch to her in many ways, and I'm great confidence that she will continue to carry it. And We have just met some amazing women over the years as well, like yourself, like some of the survivors in Edmonton, who I'm confident will carry the torch forward. So I thank you, and I thank all of the others who are doing that important work.
Thank you again. And to everyone watching now, I highly recommend that you go and listen to our episode 22, because that's where Kathy King is a guest on our show, speaking to co-host of mine, April Eve Weiberg, herself an Indigenous survivor of sexual exploitation. And there's time there to go much, much deeper on the situation of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. You can also find out more about Kathy's advocacy and Kara's story at missingkara.ca, and find out more about the book she and Andrea wrote. If you
Apologies, everyone. We're not sure why the platform keeps cutting off the very end of every video, but you're not missing much. It's right near the end that it seems to be doing that. So thank you so much to Kathy, my co-author and my dear friend. I can't say enough good things about her. She's really brilliant. And I was one of the people that she gifted Rachel Moran's book to whenever she purchased a whole bunch of them. And I agree, it is definitely a paradigm shifting book. And as Catherine McKinnon says on the cover, the best work by anyone on prostitution ever. So if you haven't read that book, definitely get yourself a copy of it. And thank you to Kathy for purchasing from our print on demand the copy of the book. And then I will be covering the shipping to whoever wins the prize. So it's a really good, hearty, thick book. It'll keep you busy for quite some time reading it. And we're just really grateful for all the support that we've received to date, promoting it and just making sure that it reaches the people who it needs to reach. And because I'm just swarmed with books here, here's another one. This is who we'll be hearing from next, Jean Sarson and Linda McDonald, who comprise Persons Against Non-State Torture, a lovely, lovely initiative that is so important and led by two lovely women. So we'll hear from them now.
Hello, everyone, from the Red Light Expose podcast. Thank you for inviting us to your fundraiser today. I'm Linda McDonald, and this is Jean Sarson, and we're from Persons Against Non-State Torture. And thank you, Andrea Hines and Michelle Abel, for interviewing us on the podcast and for highlighting our work around the torture that happens in prostitution based on the work that we do. So we coined the term non-state torture, and I'm just going to give you a definition that we've developed over time working with others. Non-state torture is torture that occurs in the domestic or private sphere, in relationships perpetrated within families, human trafficking, in prostitution, pornographic exploitation, by violent groups and gangs, dismissed as social, cultural, traditional, or religious acts, and can be committed during migration, displacement, and in humanitarian or civil unrest. So that's a long definition, but non-state torture is a global crime and human rights violation, and there's more non-state torture in the world than there is state torture. And we have devised 4 different categories. I'll just give you the brief summaries of each category of non-state torture and where prostitution fits in. Category 1 is the classic non-state torture. Category 2 is commercial-based, which is trafficking, prostitution, pornography, snuff pornography, and domestic migrant workers. Category 3 is social, cultural, and traditional religious acts and norms. And Category 4 is groups and gangs, such as organized crime and paramilitary. So what we're talking about today is Category 2, which is the commercial base and the money that the pimps and the buyers make and spend on buying women. So Jean's going to give you some more detail about our research in that way.
Thank you, Linda. So to make evidence how extensive non-state torture, victimization, and prostitution is, Linda and I devised a questionnaire. It has 48 different forms of non-state torture acts that perpetrators inflict. And I'll give you a few examples that are life-threatening. The concept of electric shocking, the issue of water torture when someone is held under water in a tub or the toilet or a lake, the issue of suffocation, choking, and strangulation. Those are some examples that are in the questionnaire. We also did an example using 30 responses from women in different countries. For example, they came from Canada, the majority came from Canada, from the USA, from the Philippines, from Ireland, and the UK. And what the women told us is the dehumanizing impact that non-state torture victimization caused them. For example, 93% of the 30 women told us they were called derogatory names. 90% were put down. But the important issue that this contributes to being treated as non-human, and 77% of the 30 said that's exactly how they felt. And to give you some example of what the majority or 50% of those 30 women said was most common, is that they were raped by one person. This is in prostitution, 77%. And they were raped with guns or other weapons or other objects. 77% said this is their ordeal. Threatened to be killed. They were beaten severely and savagely, and they were also group or gang raped. And pornographic victimization occurred, which leads to the humiliation. Drugging, whether it was alcohol, pills, or also the issue of phalangia, which is a term for beating the soles of the feet. And 50% of the women said that was inflicted against them. And people often wonder why that is. If the beating to the soles of your feet is so severe, you can't stand and you certainly can't run to escape. So that is some of the information that the questionnaires that women answered, and tells us about the severity, Linda, of the non-state torture in prostitution.
Thanks, Jean. Now, we come with a positive message, and the first book we wrote, Women Unsilenced, Our Refusal to Let Torture or Traffickers Win, is all about our work and how we help women. And you can have a copy of this book through ebook or audio. We've donated 2 different forms for your fundraiser. So that's our first book, and we talk a lot about how we help women and how the resilient they are and how they heal. And we also have a second book that's coming out in October called Healing, Lynn's Story, How I Got Myself Back. And she really was a woman that Jean and I helped. She was tortured and trafficked and prostituted by her husband for 4.5 years, and really found no one to listen to her story until we met her 25 years later as nurses. So it's all about Lynn's story and how she healed from the trafficking and prostitution that she was subjected to. And we'll finish with Lynn's words, because we know that women can heal. And Lynn said, "I'm feeling astonished and proud of my courage, of my strength, and of my will to survive." And that's the message we give you today, the gift of knowing that women can indeed heal from the torture and prostitution. So thank you very much, and good luck with your fundraiser.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We really, really appreciate this donation, and we know these are really heavy subjects, but it's important to name things as they are. When I mentioned that we were going to do this episode to some people, that was like, "What do you mean torture? That happens in prison camps." And then I had to explain, no, we are talking about the exact same acts that are happening to, like, a prisoner of war, happening in a brothel, being called a service, being called BDSM, being called a bad day at work, when the real accurate word is torture. So this is incredibly important work that's being done. And yeah, we hope there's interest in this book, because it's not just about the darkness, it's also about the healing. Because we're also told, if this happens to you, you are broken, you are damaged forever. And that is not true. There are many, many things that can be done. That's another way that we are kept down, when women are told, your life is over. Who could get up after such events? Many women are living proof that you can. So I'm going to tell you about the next prize, which is our mystery prize. And I can't tell you very much, obviously, that would ruin the mystery, but it is something I would personally buy a ticket myself. It's something that I think is very cool, that I would be excited to get in the post. It is a physical item. Unfortunately, it can only be shipped in the UK and the EU. And the price for it is $10 to buy a ticket. And like I said, I can't say much more, but I promise it's worth it. So I hope there's some interest. And for people who like surprises, this is going to be one, a cool one.
And the grand prize that I'm now presenting is a $200 gift card to Amazon. I just have to check what the $2 is. It $200 US dollars. And it's gifted by a group called Exodus Cry. It's a religious nonprofit organization that works tirelessly to end any commercial sexual exploitation.
I am so happy to be here and be introducing my friend Sloan Wilson, who is the Survivor Care Coordinator of Exodus Cry, which is a lovely organization down in Orange County, California, that has just done so much wonderful work in this space. So welcome, Sloan. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so grateful to be here. It makes me so happy knowing that I can sit up and pull up a chair and connect with you and help spread y'all's mission too.
Thank you. I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about Exodus Cry, the organization's mission, some of the work that you guys have done, or anything that you might want to share.
Yeah, so I was just sharing with you a second ago how I always have our little spiel when I talk about what we do, because I think it's so important to be able to communicate our organization as a whole, because we're a pretty multifaceted organization. But more than anything, the global sex industry creates victims everywhere it goes, right? It's whether it's through prostitution, stripping, pornography, this predatory industry consistently pulls in the most vulnerable women and children in society and afflicts them with lifelong trauma. And so at Exodus Cry, we exist to uproot sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation while assisting and empowering its survivors. And so we kind of do that in three ways, we like to say. We do that by shifting culture, changing laws, and reaching out. So the first section would be shifting culture. We do this by exposing the sex industry through our films and documentaries. That's what we're most known for. A lot of people know us from films like Nefarious or Buying Her. We have a few of them on Netflix as well, like Liberated. It's a film that we have on Netflix still. And we also have a lot of research and media, whether it's like digital media or written, verbal media, whether it's been like us speaking at conferences and things. We do a lot in wanting to go after culture and really, like I said, uproot trafficking from the source. And we need to do that by awareness. We really believe at Exodus Cry that films and media change people and people change the world. And so we need people to be moved to action by awareness. So that's a big step. The next part would be changing laws. So we fight for and advocate for laws that fight for the vulnerable. And so we do that through campaigns that we run. We're working on a campaign right now called Stop Demand, and that's really going after the demand side of trafficking. And that's something that we'll be rolling out here shortly too. And the last part would be reaching out. We do that by supporting our survivors of commercial sexual exploitation that have been referred to us. We provide them with critical trauma therapy and survivor support sessions with trauma-informed therapists. Their life's work is to work with this demographic. And so that is very important to us as an organization, that those who are working with those who are referred to us are really well trained and well versed in the work of those who've been afflicted by commercial sexual exploitation. And so we work with two different centers. So there's Human Save that's based in California, and then the Sonar Institute that's based in New Jersey. And so we work out of these two centers. We have a partnership with them that any survivor of commercial sexual exploitation, trafficking that is referred to us gets completely free trauma therapy or survivor support sessions, so mental health support. We start off initially by giving 20 free sessions to see, some of our survivors that we work with really like knowing there's a start and end date, but we have never once turned a survivor away if they wanted to continue support. And the women and the men that we've worked with as well, the survivors, have had truly incredible recovery. So we work a lot with those who have just come out of kind of that phase one. They have a safe shelter. They're away from the trafficker or the really unsafe situation. Now they're ready to go after healing. They're ready to unearth some of the trauma from that horrible season that they'd gone through and heal it. And so that is something that we really want to focus on, is that kind of like phase two care, is like how are we supporting them on their long-term recovery. And so that's something that's really important to us at Exodus Cry. And doing my research for my role, I found that the recidivism rate, the rate that women re-enter the life, dramatically goes down in the presence of really quality trauma therapy. And so when we realized that, we're like, we have to invest in this significantly if we want to go after breaking the cycle. If we want to really bring true and lasting freedom, we have to go after the deep things that will be carried on lifelong. And so there was that part that we were very adamant about wanting to partner with really well functioning organizations that offer therapy. So that's when we got partnered with Sonar and Human Save. I just got approval from our board and have been in the works of creating a survivor scholarship fund as well. So there's a lot of survivors who are in our program right now who are wanting to go back to school or get continued vocational training. And so in our work with this too, we realized if we really want to be able to help fund their dreams and help them go after a life outside of exploitation, we want to help fuel that and make it happen. And so now we're offering an additional like $2,000 to go through either vocational training or university of their choice. And that's been something that we are consistently building out. So it should be up and running here soon. That's the hope. And I'm very excited about that part, because that was something that a lot of the survivors I work with in our program have voiced wanting to go back to school, and it just being something that is really hard to navigate. And so, you know, we see a need and we're trying to make it happen. So that's that. And then we're also in works of building a financial literacy mentorship program. We found that the recidivism rate massively goes down when there is quality trauma therapy, a stronger like financial literacy, when the fear of money and the confidence in use of money goes up. And then when there is hope outside of the life, vocational training, schooling, we saw those three things and we were like, we have to make those happen. And so that's kind of where our team has been. We've been doing the work with trauma therapy for about 5 years now, and doing this, it's been so successful that we want to add to it. We've been an organization, we've been around for, oh my goodness, how many years at this point? 16 years. I think 2008 is when Exodus Cry first started. And we've seen many different forms of how we support and care for survivors. And this has definitely been one of the sweetest seasons, being able to walk with survivors through something as vulnerable as trauma therapy. So that's something that matters a lot to me as our survivor care overseer, just being able to see these women go through the most, you know, it makes me like emotional thinking about it. I had a survivor say the other day that she finally feels like she's come home to herself. I mean, that's what we want. I want a survivor to feel safe inside herself again. And I think that's the work that we're doing. And it feels like such an honor and a privilege that we get to do it. And so that's a bit about what we do at Exodus Cry and a bit about what our trauma therapy program looks like. It's constantly unfolding because we're wanting to improve it every single day. It's been a really beautiful journey.
That's fabulous. Wow, you are really busy people over there at Exodus Cry. You're doing so much work, but you know what? It's so well thought out work, and it's such heart-centered work. And, you know, that just reiterates what I said in the beginning about really appreciating your team and that organization. So
we adore you. So it's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting us with one of our grand prizes for our Red Light Expose raffle. It's really just an extension of the wonderful work that you're doing, supporting survivor voices and, you know, those experiences being brought to the forefront. So thank you so much, Sloan. If people want to reach out to you, what's the website that they can do it at?
Yes, exoduscry.com is the best place to contact us. There's an option on there to email if you have questions, thoughts, you know, things that you want to bring up. If you are a survivor or you are in direct services for survivors and referral to our therapy program is something that you want to explore, you can email me personally at Sloane, SLOANE, Wilson, WILSON at exoduscry.com. And I can get you in track with learning more about our survivor care program.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sloan. I look forward to the future collaborations and conversations that I know that we'll have. Oh, I love Sloan. She's so great. I had the opportunity to meet her live in California last year when Exodus Cry invited me onto their podcast. And Sloan was so nice and drove me all around all the time. So I didn't have to take taxis or Ubers. So we had lots of time to chat. And she's just really quite a fantastic human. So thanks to Sloan. Thanks to Exodus Cry. Please check out their podcast too. It's really remarkable. Benjamin Nolot does a lot of really great interviews with a lot of diverse people on this subject. So I think, oh yeah, we have one more. Last but not least is our second grand prize. This one is Canada only. It is a $500 Amazon.ca gift card, whereas the Exodus Cry one is $200 US for Amazon.com. So here to close us out with the grand prize for the $500 Amazon.ca gift card is our friend Paul Brandt with Not in My City.
Hi, I'm Paul Brandt, country music singer and founder of Not in My City and the co-chair of the Alberta Office to Combat Trafficking in Persons Governing Board. The purpose of Not in My City is to find and fill gaps to end exploitation and human trafficking, especially among youth across Canada, on nation and on reserve. Did you know that human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in Canada today? Many people think that it couldn't happen here in our communities. And that's because this crime goes largely unseen or unrecognized. The truth is, Indigenous populations, while making up only 4% of Canada's population, represent over 50% of trafficking victims in Canada, according to some studies. Human trafficking thrives in secrecy. This keeps this lucrative business hidden, which is what traffickers rely on. While there are many forms of trafficking which have been identified, the three main categories are sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and organ trafficking. The average annual income made by sex traffickers in Canada is a whopping $280,000 per year per victim, and a quarter of human trafficking victims are under the age of 18, and many as young as 12. Elders, leaders, governments, law enforcement, parents, frontline workers, and individuals are often unaware of the signs of this crime. And this means young people are vulnerable and parents are unprepared because the victims themselves are often unaware that they're being exploited. Traffickers are experts at force, fraud, and coercion, and often use very deceptive tactics to keep victims under their control. Victims often know their traffickers and are even in intimate relationships with them. Victims often do not recognize that they're being trafficked. That's why we need to get the word out and educate the public about this grim reality. But there is hope. Awareness with action ends exploitation. We welcome you to join us in our fight to put an end to human trafficking and sexual exploitation. We truly are stronger together. Visit notinmycity.ca and scan this QR code to take our free e-learning course. Print off your certificate and empower yourself by learning the signs of human trafficking.
Thanks to our friend Paul and everyone at the Not in My City team. I often wear my yellow rose pin that they gifted me with just so that I can raise awareness about the wonderful work that they're doing, particularly around airports and putting signs in bathrooms that talk about being a victim of trafficking and some resources where people can reach out for help if need be. So we just want to say thank you to the almost 650 people who have joined us today for this live stream. That's really fantastic. We appreciate having you here. And we really hope that you will visit redlightexpose.betterworld.org. And we hope that you can send this to your friends. And please don't miss the cutoff date for the 27th of June when those tickets will no longer be available.
Yeah,
sorry?
Go for it.
Now, I just want to send a big thank you out to the donors, all participants. A special thank you to Katrina, who has handled all the technology that we must learn to understand. So you have to teach us. But this is so important. And as I always say, commercial sexual exploitation doesn't confine within the boundaries of a country. So we have to work across countries if we're going to find a solution. Thank you. Visit our website, buy tickets. It's great prices. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you from me as well. Thank you to the audience. And if you support our mission, but you're not in a position to buy a ticket or the items don't speak to you, you can still support us just by sharing. Like we said, there'll be 10 more days to purchase tickets. We'll be posting about the individual items. If you think there's a book that, you know, a friend of yours might like to win, or a family member, or you just want to let other people know, please do share on all the different platforms. We depend on word of mouth. We depend on, because this is all grassroots, right? We don't have the big money from, you know, all these, like, people say we're funded by the church, we're funded by the what, but it's like, this is really, really grassroots effort. And that means that you can make a difference here, and every supporter matters. So thank you to everyone who watched, who shared, who is going to share. And our supporter and organizer of this event, Katrina, will lead us out.
Hi, everyone. I really didn't plan on closing out, and you caught me off guard because I thought Andrew was going next. So sorry about that. But thank you for tuning in. And, you know, if this is a topic that you care about, this is really an opportunity to make it grow, because this money will go towards their efforts, but then we're getting out into bigger audiences. And change really starts with education. So you know, it would be great if we didn't have any costs for the podcast, but we do. And we've tried to make it really cool with a bunch of really cool prizes. If you're not following Red Light Expose on Twitter or some of the other platforms, please do, because throughout the week, we will do some more little flash specials, like more buy one, get one frees, but it will be, you know, not, you know, it'll be just certain times. So also add them to your notifications. Again, the website is redlightexpose.betterworld.org, and there's really nothing more I can say. You know, just this is really important to me, to all of these women. And honestly, if we want to see a better world in general, we really have to start focusing on these issues, because this is kind of where people fall through the cracks, and that breaks up the foundation of our whole society. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to say, but okay, well, thank you all for joining, and please retweet this if you're watching, or share the video on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.